Josh Mandel, it's great to have you with us on Powerline.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Josh, we've been following your career on Powerline since 2008, which was shortly after you got out of the Marine Corps. Why don't we start by just telling our readers a little bit about your military service?
Sure. I was in the Marine Corps Reserves, did a couple tours in Iraq, first one in 2004 in Western Anbar province primarily, second one in 2007 and 8 in a town called Haditha, and I was proud to do my small part as a Marine, representing our country and serving overseas, and am now doing my part here in the state of Ohio, where I'm the treasurer of the state and running for the United States Senate.
Josh, you were elected treasurer in 2010. What have some of your accomplishments as treasurer been?
Well, when I came into the treasurer's office, it was right around the same time the U.S. credit rating was downgraded for the first time in American history, and at least 14 state or local government funds around the country were downgraded. In the wake of all of that financial chaos, we've earned the highest rating we could earn, a AAA rating on the multi-billion-dollar investments I manage, the highest rating on our bonds. We navigated the European sovereign debt crisis, not only without a loss, but actually with a yield on behalf of taxpayers. Our portfolio is up over $2 billion since the day we took office, and we've done it while voluntarily cutting our budget 2 years in a row. And we believe the story we have to tell from the Ohio Treasurer's Office contrasts in a very stark fashion with the unfortunate mess in Washington, where politicians have racked up a $16 trillion debt that exceeds our entire American economy, and for whatever reason, they haven't had the courage to pass a budget in over 3 years in the Senate.
It's unbelievable, in violation of federal law, too. So this year, Josh, you're running for the U.S. Senate against Sherrod Brown, the Democratic incumbent. And of course, I want to talk about your race, but before we get to that, Ohio is really ground zero this year in the presidential race and the electoral contest generally. How do you think things are going so far for the Republicans in Ohio?
I hope and believe Mitt Romney is going to win Ohio and become the next president of the United States, and I pray for that all the time. I just think, with due respect to the sitting president, he's been a terrible leader, a bad commander-in-chief, and he's been a very negative leader for our country. I think his politics are the politics of division, and he's really trying to split people down class lines and other lines, and it's just not good for our country long term. And I think the Obama we heard from at the Democratic Convention in 2000, when was that? I guess it was 2004. I mean, I've seen that speech on the internet. His message is not the message by which he's led as president, and I think it's one of the reasons why Mitt Romney is going to win Ohio and be victorious this fall.
Ironically, Josh, some people think that the fact that Governor John Kasich and you and other Republicans have helped turn around Ohio's economy could actually be helping Barack Obama. Do you think that could be true?
Well, I think the voters in the state have a sense that the success we're having is because of fiscal conservatism here at the local level in the state of Ohio, and we're doing it despite the wins from Washington. We're cutting through the headwinds coming from Washington, cutting through the overregulation of our small businesses, the overtaxation of our families and our senior citizens, the war on coal, the war on natural resources, the federal government takeover of healthcare. We're doing it despite those unfortunate occurrences in Washington.
So far, what key issues have emerged in your race against Sherrod Brown?
One of the issues is that the citizens of our state think that Sherrod Brown is living by a different set of rules than all of us. I mean, we sitting around our kitchen tables have to manage our family finances. Sitting around conference room tables, small business owners have to manage their finances. But Sherrod Brown thinks it's not that meaningful, that they haven't even passed a budget in Washington for 3 years, let alone a balanced budget in such a longer time. And that's one of the main issues, just politicians in Washington living by a different set of rules. I mean, Sherrod Brown has missed over 350 votes as a senator. When he finally shows up, he votes to give himself a pay raise 6 times. It's just people are just sick and tired of that kind of hypocrisy coming out of Washington. The second issue is fiscal conservatism and lack thereof in Washington. I mentioned the debt, the deficit. We also have a problem spending money they don't have, and they're taking our tax dollars and giving it away to foreign countries that harbor terrorists. I mean, why in the world would the Senate Appropriations Committee, Sherrod Brown and I, give $1 billion of our tax money to Pakistan around the same time that Pakistan convicted for treason the guy who helped us find Osama bin Laden? Fiscally irresponsible and morally wrong. And, there's just these are a lot of the issues that are coming up. By and large, I'd say the number one issue folks are concerned with is jobs and the economy. And we have, unfortunately, over 400,000 people out of work here in the state of Ohio. And it's a serious problem, and one which people blame Sherrod Brown for a lot of their problems.
How about foreign policy, Josh? I know you're a strong supporter of Israel. Does Brown share Barack Obama's apparent antipathy toward Israel?
Sherrod Brown was the first Senate candidate in America that J Street endorsed this election cycle. He's voted against support for Israel on 5 separate occasions. One time voted to cut support for Israel. On repeated occasions, refused to sign relatively benign letters in support of the U.S.-Israel relationship. And, there's a good mix of Democrats, Republicans, and independents in the state of Ohio who see Sherrod Brown as a Palestinian sympathizer and someone who just doesn't understand the U.S.-Israel relationship and time and time again has refused to support it. So he shares a lot of Barack Obama's problems with the U.S.-Israel relationship and then adds some on top of that.
Now, your race, Josh, I think poses about as clear a philosophical conflict as any of the Senate races going on around the country because, of course, you're a solid, principled conservative, and I think Sherrod Brown has been ranked as one of the most liberal members of the U.S. Senate. Is that right?
He was named the most liberal member of the United States Senate a year or two ago. I think one time he was either tied with or to the left of Bernie Sanders, who, as many of your listeners know, is a self-avowed socialist from Vermont. And that's not Ohio. I mean, Ohio is just not a socialist state, let alone a far leftist state. And Sherrod Brown is way out of touch with the values of our state. In fact, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce gave him the lowest rating in America when it comes to friendliness to business.
Wow. Now, I haven't seen the polls on your race for a while. I know a month ago Rasmussen had the race tied. How do you think it's going at this point?
Well, we don't talk publicly about the specifics of our internal polls, but I can tell you we're in a dead heat within the margin of error, and Sherrod Brown is just stuck in the mid-40s. Essentially, everyone knows who he is, and less than half the people want to rehire him. It's one of the main reasons we're going to win this thing.
So, obviously, this is one of the top races going on in the United States in 2012. Other than, obviously, the presidential contest, your race against Brown might very well be the number 2 race that conservatives ought to be focused on. Where should our readers go, Josh, if they want to contribute to your campaign?
Our website is joshmandel.com. It's JOSHMANDEL.com. And we would truly appreciate their support via our website.
Josh Mandel, thank you very much for being with us on Powerline.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.